Hour number 2 of this broadcast welcomes in for the first time in person on the show a man who called in during the COVID years in support of the show This Is Us that earned him not 1 but 2 Emmy nominations for his role as Toby. He's in the new Steven Soderbergh film called Presence, available in theaters nationwide this Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Sullivan back here on the program. Good to see you in person, sir.
Thanks for having me.
You bet, man.
Yeah.
How's everything?
Everything's good. Everything's good. We're safely
I know, right?
away from any of the fires.
Right.
And the kids are
How old are your
staying
kids?
indoors.
How old are your kids?
2 and 4.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
You're in it.
So I'm just very glad to be out of the house and just hanging out with you guys. So I'm free for the next hour or two. So whatever you guys want to do.
The Rich Eisen Show studio is an empty nest every day, with the exception of the children who reside here. That's us on the air.
Yeah.
No, is that why you were eyeing my best dad ever sign?
Yes, I see. Now, I was under the assumption that I was the best dad ever, and then I see this official signage, and now I have questions.
Well, I mean, 2 and 4 is in the soup, sir.
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
that
we
is
are.
it.
We are coming.
Boy, girl, what do you have? What's
we
the
have
split?
a 2-year-old girl
Okay.
and a 4-year-old boy.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're coming back alive, as my wife puts it, coming
Fantastic.
back into the world.
And
Chris, which one's your favorite?
Oh,
Which one's my favorate?
No.
I know it's a rough question right off the bat. I knew you guys were going to ask the hard questions.
Excuse me. First of all, don't take the bait, Chris, because you may be unaware of what's happening here. They've been trying to get me.
Oh, I see.
Because I have 3.
Okay.
2 boys and a girl.
Right.
The girl's the youngest.
Right.
And the
Who
favorite.
everybody here assumes she's my favorite.
Sure.
And I am not ever going to even endeavor answering this question. Because the one who asked it
Right.
not only doesn't have children.
Right.
But let me just
On the books.
I'm sorry. But I'm sorry to go in this direction.
No. Let's go. Let's
But
go there.
Hoskins, you know where I'm going to go with this. For a child who he went to a Monday Night Raw locally here in Los Angeles just a couple of weeks ago, because he's friends with Ashton Kutcher.
Okay.
And a godfather to his son Bear, who was on camera for Monday Night Raw. TJ jumped into
Whose son's name is Bear?
Ashton Kutcher's.
Oh, my son's name is Bear.
Are you serious?
That's right.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, that's Bear Kutcher on the screen. Only we obscured the part of his face that could identify him.
For a second, I was going to say, yikes.
But TJ jumped in to the frame there.
Oh, yes, there he is.
This is the guy who's asking
I see him.
who is a favorite child when he would actually jump into the frame of a kid who no doubt was happy to be on television.
Ashton looks really happy that you're there, TJ. Looks happy to have you.
Why is your son named Bear? Because
Well, my wife, during her pregnancy, had a recurring dream, and she was stuck on this frozen tundra, and there was this snowstorm happening all around her, and this polar bear kept coming to her out of the storm and wrapping her up and keeping her safe and keeping her warm. And she woke up one day and was like, what about Bear? And we had this long list. Bear was not on it, and I was like, that's it. That's perfect.
Well, better
Wow,
than
that's
that's
awesome.
amazing.
What a story.
So, was Polar wasn't on a list? then?
Polar, yeah, bear, comma, polar.
No, but that's wild.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool.
But to answer, I will answer the question because, as you said, I am in the soup, and my favorite child is whichever one will put their pants on willingly. That's and so it changes day to day, and who knows? Today could be your day if you're feeling willing.
Whoever listens the best is what you're saying.
Listen, it's not even about listening. Just put your pants on. We have to go outside.
I only have one, and some days my favorite kid is 0.
Because, well, Cage isn't much of a pants wearer.
That's
at
right.
age 4.
You know, clothes are optional.
You know.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah, let's clip that and send it to him.
I like it. For later on.
That's right.
Well, it's terrific.
That's right.
Well, I can't wait for Bear one day to watch The Nick.
Yeah.
How old will Bear have to be to watch The Nick that you were in back in the day with Soderbergh?
I think we'll call it 18. Yeah, a proper adult. It's a brutal show.
Let's talk about this new Soderbergh, man. This new Soderbergh film that you are in. It's called Presence, about a supernatural presence in a house.
Yeah.
Monitoring, I guess, is one way to put it, a family's affairs or something that's happening. And it is a subjective camera film So every shot is of the presence watching
Yes,
you?
yeah. Steven himself had a supernatural experience in a house that he owned, and it occurred to him, what would it be like, not for a human having a supernatural experience, but for the ghost to be experiencing a new family moving into a house. And so the entire film is shot from the perspective of the presence.
And so when you're going about your business of acting this film, you and Lucy Liu and the rest of this cast, did you know where the camera was, or that was part and parcel of not knowing was part and parcel of your gig?
You know, Steven is, as you know, is an innovator when it comes to filmmaking. He will not make a project unless he is challenging himself in some great way, right? And when I first met with him about this project, first thing he did was show me the rig. He's like, here's the camera. I've built this special rig. It's only 8 pounds, so I can hold it out here in front of myself, because Steven is essentially playing
the presence,
the ghost. And after about a day or two, he just completely disappeared. He's dressed all in black. He's got the camera.
No.
There's a boom mic guy hiding behind him, and he would float around and shoot these scenes. And because it is all from this first person perspective, there's not a bunch of cuts, there's not a bunch of edits, and so each scene is like this little piece of theater. And we shot the film. We were slated to shoot it in 14 days. Mm-hmm. We shot it in 11 days.
Because I was going to ask you, knowing him and the way that he goes about his business, it wasn't like, hey, do it again, because I'm thinking maybe the presence should be over here. He knew exactly where the presence was going to be the entire time, right?
Steven, the best part about working with Steven is not only is he directing, but for those that don't know, he operates his own camera.
Right.
And he edits all his own footage. So when you see a Steven Soderbergh project, it is one of the rare occasions when you are seeing a singular vision of one person. So he knows what he wants to shoot. He knows what he doesn't want to shoot. And on the day we wrapped, the movie was done. He had already edited it all together.
Get out of here.
I texted him at the end of the day. He finished putting it together in the car on the way home.
How is that even possible?
He's a genius, and he's a pleasure to work with. Yeah.
So technically, when you wrapped this movie, you could have watched it that night.
Yeah. He would have shown it to you, too, if you asked. You want to see it? Dude, when we were doing The Nick, he used to... He would have an editing assistant who would be taking clips from the day, who would hand him a hard drive. He would get in his car, go back to Manhattan, and by the time he was home, he had already emailed us cuts of those scenes with temporary music to be like, look what we did today. He's there's nobody like him.
That gives a new meaning to the word daily.
That's right. That's
Seriously,
right.
I mean, it's unreal.
Yeah.
How does that make your job as an actor easier? Does it? Or you're like, I better get this right because I know he wants to edit it on the commute home.
Listen, he's not a big. I think in 2 seasons of The Nick, I received one acting note from him that wasn't, hey, can you move a little bit that way, or can you speed it up a little bit? Like, whatever the thing was, he does a lot of his work with Carmen Cuba, his casting director, in casting. And he hires you to do a job, and he trusts that you will show up and do it. And he has obviously 3 or 4 things going on that he's worried about. And everybody shows up, they're prepared, everybody does their job, and it all works out.
It really is amazing. Every single
TJ.
time. Unreal. How did you wind up on the Soderbergh radar screen to begin with, Chris?
You know, I was living in New York. I was doing a bunch of Broadway shows, and my manager at that time was like, "Listen, you could do theater forever, but you need to take a break because I got to get you on. We got to get more film and TV work going."
Sure.
So I took a break, and immediately he got me in with Carmen Cuba. I am a 6'4" Irishman, Christopher Joseph Sullivan.
Yes, sir.
So the one accent that I had ready to go from the time I was like 15 years old was an Irish accent.
Yes.
And so when this role came up, I was ready. I was ready to do it.
I know the role turned out to be an Irishman.
Yeah, so he's an Irish immigrant ambulance driver.
Correct.
Who essentially is a man with a horse and a wagon
Back in the day.
in 1900 New York City. Yeah.
Right, and so you didn't make him Irish. He was supposed to be Irish,
Yeah.
and then you went in and you...
That's right. That's right. And, Steven, I never met Steven before I was cast. I met with his casting director. She put me on tape and got the part.
And now you check out Presents, available in theaters nationwide this Friday. And you've got a rewatch podcast called That Was Us.
Oh, yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Sterling K. Brown and Mandy Moore and you every single Tuesday. Just looking back at the show.
Yeah,
from This Is Us,
the show flew by for us. It was 6 seasons, and it was one of those shows that was a huge hit that the creator Dan Fogelman decided to end. Everybody wanted him to continue on. Everybody wanted more episodes.
The whole cast too?
Yeah, I mean, sure, we would have done it. It was a pleasure to do.
Why? Because the subject matter was pretty brutal sometimes. Man.
Sometimes, but the vibe on set was kind of mathematically. It was just mathematically impossible how well we all got along, and it really felt like a pleasure to go to work every day. And so by the time we finished. We wanted more. The people who loved the show wanted more. And we thought, if anyone's going to do a rewatch podcast, we should do it. And it'll be a chance for us to kind of walk back through everything with the fans.
And that's every single Tuesday.
Yeah.
So far in your rewatching, what's your favorite episode that you were in or favorite scene? I'll give you the floor on this.
Like you were saying in early season 2, the season, Mandy Moore delivers a performance that Sterling and I we just bow down to. She across the entire show gives one of the greatest performances ever given on television, but the episode in which her husband Jack dies is just one of the most beautiful performances we've ever seen. And so it was fun to be able to go back and watch and
you made that a subject of a pod?
Yeah, we watch every single episode.
Every episode?
Yeah, we watch every episode.
Forgive me for not knowing. What's the grand total number of episodes?
108.
Dude.
So we're halfway through season 2 right now.
By the way, that's a to use a Dr. Seuss phrase, as you might be reading your that's a whopping fine number.
That's a whopping fine number.
I mean, 100 episodes of any television show these days is kind of unheard of. Like even successful shows only do 8-10 episodes a season right now due to streaming.
That's right. That's right.
So,
the whole landscape has changed, and we might not have been sure at the time that we might have been like the last dramatic hour-long network television show that had that kind of run. We'll see.
You might be right, which is kind of wild. But I understand. I know we were talking about it all the time.
Thanks.
Of course.
So much, yeah.
Go for it, TJ. I don't mean to interrupt.
Well, I'm from Pittsburgh, so that was the draw. A friend of mine, actually, and we brought him up earlier. It was Ashton when you guys first premiered.
Right.
I think by episode 4, he asked me twice, "Have you been watching this show?" He goes, "You're gonna love this. Take my word for it." And he was right. And I started watching it. But I'll tell you this, and I hope it sounds right. This show was so good, man, that I had to stop watching it at a certain point because at the end of every episode. You're so emotional.
Yeah.
And and I'll be honest with you, there were times where I cried watching This Is Us. And it got to the point where I needed a break after like season 2, 3. Some of the stuff was so good and it was so real. I was like, I gotta take a week off and just like get this out. Because that's how, and I mean this in the greatest compliment I could give you. It was so good. And was so emotional that I had to step away a few times. Like, all right, let's.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Give me a week off of this before I jump back.
Yeah, we got that response from a lot of people who watched the show, and that was part of the reason we wanted to do the podcast. Was to like, okay, we understand this can be a lot. How about we go back through this with you, and we'll talk about it together.
So it's kind of let's all reconvene and go through.
Maybe we need a little support system. We'll get you back through it.
It's what it sounds like, you know. And it's interesting that you say that what TJ just said is it's not unfamiliar that you've not heard that, and so I understand. It's very nice of you to give a compliment to a cast member like you did with Mandy Moore, but there is an eye in Chris Sullivan. Give me your character, your moment that you're like the most proud of, or you think stands out amongst this series for you.
I'll give you an interesting kind of a dual scenario.
Sure.
I think it was season 3 when I was first nominated. And when you're nominated for something, you submit an episode.
Yes, of course.
So that the nominee committee doesn't have to watch thousands of episodes of television. You submit one, and the one that I submitted was an episode in which my character has a nervous breakdown. And on the day I shot it, I came home and told my wife. I said, "Well, that was my shot, and I missed it. I didn't show up today. I'm not sure what happened. I just didn't feel it."
What do you mean?
I just wasn't. So a lot was happening that day. I was trying to prepare for all this heavy stuff on set. Uh-huh. I get to set, and it's the first time, and I think the only time we've ever had a split crew, where an A crew and a B crew, and the A crew was off working with maybe Sterling or Mandy or somebody, and I show up on set for this heavy scene, and I know no one. I don't know the cameraman. I don't know the sound guys. I had now expected to have this like full nervous breakdown, and I'm like, wow, this is more vulnerable than I even expected. Huh. And so I was just in my head about it, and luckily I have enough training to work through those types of things.
Yeah, man, you're talking Broadway. You don't see anybody in the audience.
Listen. But it was an interesting moment to realize, like, okay, I'm feeling nervous, I'm feeling insecure, but I still have enough whatever craft or skill to navigate through this stuff, and it worked into a nomination.
Dude,
for.
Isn't that the way it works sometimes too? It's like, I didn't get it, we didn't get it. I mean, there are times when we've done segments on this show that I need to be convinced of doing. Yeah. And I'm not having a nervous breakdown, unless Michigan loses to Ohio State.
Yeah, not visibly.
But where Chris, mostly, and some others that are here, who you maybe not have met, like you just met Chris, have had to convince me, let's do it. Yeah. And that's what goes on our Emmy nomination reel. And we got nominated off of some of those segments. Yeah. Which is included watching TJ live on The Price is Right when he appeared on The Price is Right.
I think I've seen that clip.
Not to equate him losing Master Key on The Price is Right with having a nervous breakdown for an Emmy Award nominated performance.
Nervous breakdowns come in all shapes and sizes.
That's correct. Yeah. Well, we were, because there was a car on the line, man.
A couple motorcycles, Chris.
That's right. Yeah. He walked out with only a ping pong table and a popcorn machine, man.
That's not
delicious.
Nothing.
Right?
That's a good Saturday night right there.
Come on, Chris.
Popcorn machine and a ping pong table.
Oh, my God.
Chris, was that the episode where you and Kay were about the embryos?
Yeah.
Was that the one, trying to see if...
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. What a story and what a backstory. And everybody go see Presence, available in theaters nationwide this Friday, January 24th. That Was Us podcast. Sterling K. Brown, Mandy Moore, and Chris Sullivan, who's... band Joseph the Spouse, right? Is that what's going on? Okay. Yeah. Your album 6 Feet Under is available everywhere now.
Yeah, great.
Hey, man, thanks for coming in here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here personally, and as opposed to on the phone like last time. Let's do this anytime you got something going on.
It's much better.
Fantastic. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.